I have 3 questions to ask you. Is there some area of your life that you might want that's not serving your highest good and you might want changed? Is there an area of your life that you might want to tweak a little and redesign? Is there an area of your life that you might want to design? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, how to do that. Because I think that life should be lived full out. Live like you want to live it, full out, and joyfully and lovingly. And so through this series that we're doing this week, we are going to talk about how to live full out and design a new way of living. I'm going to be talking today, August 9th, 23rd, and 30th on this, and then we are honored on the 17th to have Reverend Howard Caesar. So this book is, this series is from the book, A New Design for Living by Ernest Holmes. Some of you may have heard of Ernest Holmes. He is the founder for Center for Spiritual Living, which used to be called Science of Mind. And science and mind are very, very similar. I often say it's like being Presbyterian or Methodist. You can't tell the difference. We even have, we probably have more than one, but some of you may know Reverend Michael Gott, and he is actually ordained as a Center for Spiritual Living minister and a Unity minister. And so with our two, with Center for Spiritual Living and Unity, we do hold one foundation that we know is truth, that there is a higher source, a divine mind, and we can access that divine mind through our thoughts. Now, I use the term divine mind. I could be saying source, universe, energy, and the term that most people use is the term God. So why don't I use the term God all the time? Because sometimes, do you have any labels around God, maybe, that term God? How many of you think of the old man with the beard, and thanks to Michelangelo, he's pointing a finger at you? So whatever term you want to use, God, source, divine mind, know that there is a truth, and I can guarantee that when we use this source, when we access this source, we can design any part of our lives. And how do we access source? Through our thoughts. Through our thoughts. And our thoughts, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but our thoughts are actually a form of prayer. And so to begin, I want to start now at the very basics. And when I say basics, I mean basics, molecules and atoms. Okay. For all of you scientists or people that understand science and how things operate in molecules and atoms, please forgive me because I'm definitely saying this in layman's terms. It's not very precise. Did you know that the most accurate clock, the movement of it is not done through weights or springs? Okay. So when a molecule is activated by a certain amount of energy, it begins a vibration. And through like these electronics, and we move through the flow, it can move the hands of a clock. And this vibration of these molecules moves so accurately that it does not vary more than 1 second in 300,000 years. Wow, that is something. All of that in that molecule. Let's take a look at a snowflake. Beautiful, beautiful snowflake. Made out of a drop of water, 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 of oxygen makes up that water. So how do we get that beautiful snowflake? Where is that snowflake coming from? And more importantly, you know, there are no 2 snowflakes that are alike. Now, I do have to question, how in the world did they figure out that there are no 2 snowflakes alike? But science is telling me that there's no 2 snowflakes alike. How many of you have been in the forest and seen hey, you guys out there on Facebook, you should be raising your hands if you're in the forest. So this is a picture of a sequoia tree. And did you know that the oldest sequoia tree is 3,266 years old? That is a very aged sequoia tree. And within the sequoia tree, there are rings. And each of these rings is for 1 year of life. 1 year. That's a lot of rings. And the sequoia tree begins from these little tiny seeds. So can you imagine that magnificence? Those little tiny seeds. And one of the biggest miracles, most spectacular miracles of nature is the birth of a baby. They start out with these 2 tiny cells that get together, and then they form hundreds and thousands of other cells, which become bone and skin and eyes and heartbeat, the birth of a baby. So what is it in these atoms and molecules that creates this essence of form? That's a very good question. Okay, I want to tell you a joke. So there were a bunch of scientists that got together, and they decided, hey, we don't need God anymore, you know. So they elected one of the scientists to say, will you go tell God that we don't need God anymore? So the scientist walks over, says, God, hey, we don't need you anymore. You know, we can clone people, and we can do all of those miraculous things that you've done. And you, God, you can just go get lost, you know. So God listened very kindly and patiently, and she's like, okay, let's have a man-making contest. And this scientist is like, yeah, I got this down. And she said, let's do it the way I did it when I created Adam. And he's like, okay. So he bends over and he reaches down and he grabs some dirt, and she says, no, 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 you go get your own dirt. So the question is, what is it in that atom? What is it in that molecule, that directive force that makes the snowflake, that makes the sequoia tree, that puts those cells together and makes that baby? It is the divine mind. It is God. It is the creator. And what does that creator create? That creator creates us. So God is the creator, we are the creation, and we are the creator. We are the creator also. And how do we create? We create through our thoughts. Did you know that everything that is in existence now and will be in existence in the future has already been here? Okay? The idea of it is in divine mind, always. I love to fly on planes. I just think it's fun. I like, you know, getting on it. I used to love eating on planes. That's gone away now. And so you get on a plane and you sit down, and then all of a sudden you feel that energy, and all that tons of steel moving through the air, it's my most favorite part, okay? My most favorite part should be landing, but the rising is my most favorite part. And that plane has always existed in the idea of divine minds. And what did it take to bring it? It took man and woman to bring it into creation. So we can create. We are the creators and the creation. Okay? We can, through our thoughts, bring the divine ideas into placement. Okay, I'm going to give you this something to think about. Matter is thought informed. Thought is matter unformed. If you ever have insomnia, think about this. But this is a really, really important statement. So when we have our thoughts, okay, they are just matter unformed. But matter is our thoughts in form. Interesting. That's a huge, huge thing. You've also heard it much more simply. Thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. I'm going to give you another term, another saying. Prayer is powerful. Prayer is powerful. And when we have our thoughts are a form of prayer. Now, prayer can go from our thoughts to much, much deeper levels. Okay? So I'm not saying just our thoughts are prayer, but our thoughts are a form of prayer. And our thoughts are a time to connect with the divine. In unity, we have principle 3, which says, we are co-creators with God, creating reality through thoughts held in mind. Through thoughts held in mind. And so I would go even further with this, that it's through our thoughts, our emotions, and our feelings held in mind. That is how we co-create. In Charles Sherrington, I believe it's Charles Sherrington, yes. He was a Nobel laureate in the 1920s, and he said this line, the perceiving mind and the perceived world are both parts of one mind. The perceiving mind and the perceived world are both parts of one mind. I know, you can really, if you really settle into these statements, they can be powerful. So what this is saying to me is what my mind is thinking is becoming my experience, because it is one mind. I believe that through prayer, all things are possible. Okay. Now, let's say we have an illness. Do we just pretend that we don't have the illness? No, we don't. But we do change our thoughts to what we want to experience. We acknowledge that we have this illness, but then we start thinking, what are my thoughts that I want to experience? Okay, I want to experience health. I want to experience wholeness. I want to feel and experience that running through my body. And so we start to think thoughts of that nature. And we start to be grateful for any areas of health and wholeness we have now. And then we start to think the thoughts that we want to experience. Now, are my prayers always manifested? You notice I didn't use the word answered because Are my prayers always manifested? They aren't manifested in the way that I think they should be. If all my prayers were answered, I'd probably be married a few more times. No, but if you have this prayer and you believe it and know it, it will be answered. If you pray for your highest good, pray for your highest good in any situation, okay? And believe that. Because through our thoughts, we are accessing a source. We are accessing divine mind. We are accessing a powerful source. So Joe and I were in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and there was a merry-go-round there. This merry-go-round actually was built in 1922. It went over to New York, and then they brought it back to Coeur d'Alene. I just thought that was a very interesting history. It's a very pretty merry-go-round. How many of you remember being on a merry-go-round, going round? It's sort of fun, like as an adult, to get on the merry-go-round now. You know, it makes you feel and have that kid stuff in you. But if you stay on that merry-go-round for too long, that merry-go-round could be a nightmare, couldn't it? Just going around and around and around. So how many of you might be on that merry-go-round with your thoughts? Going round and round and round. So let's say we're talking about finances, okay? How many of you might be going, how am I going, no money is coming in. I'm never going to get the job. I'm just all of those fear thoughts going round and round. So you might want to just get off of the merry-go-round. And what would that look like? What that would look like is, first, acknowledging that you are having the thoughts that are not serving your highest good. And then start thinking and feeling the thoughts that you want to experience. Knowing, well, first of all, you want to be grateful for every area of abundance that you have right now, okay? And then you want to start thinking the thoughts of that flow of abundance that is ever present here and now, although we cannot see it with our five senses. That's the difference. But that abundance, that flow is here and now. And the more we start thinking thoughts of what we want to experience, what happens? The more we experience those. Now, is this easy? No, it sounds, you know, and I'm making it sound easy now. No, it's difficult sometimes when you're in that place. But I do want to say that the more you do it, the more you will experience that your prayers are being manifested. You really have to go back to what is your belief system? What is deep, deep within there? And then I would just ask you, maybe it's a time to call our prayer line and have one of the chaplains see the truth for you. Maybe it's a time that I can call and pray with you. Maybe it's a time to call silent unity. But I invite you to keep praying, to keep changing those thoughts to the experience that you want to have. You want to keep your thoughts in alignment with your highest good, with your highest good. So I'm going to ask you some questions. Is God present to you or to me some of the time? Is God present all the time? Yes. Is God only good some of the time? No. Is God good all the time? Yes. And is my essence of God only there some of the time? No. My essence, my God essence is there all the time. So whatever your answer to these questions, okay, I'm going to invite you this week, and maybe for the rest of your life, to create a new habit, okay? And what this habit is to change your thoughts to what you want to experience. Okay. So when you're having thoughts that you don't want to experience, acknowledge, I'm having this negative thought. Do I want to experience it? And then start thinking the thoughts that you want to experience. What this is going to look like is, let's say again, we're talking about prosperity and abundance. Okay. You're going to acknowledge that you're having the negative thought and then go, whoa, what thought do I want? What do I want to experience? So I'm going to be grateful for all the abundance and prosperity in my life now. And then I'm going to start thinking thoughts of how I'm feeling with all of that, even though I don't see it with my 5 senses. And then I'm going to know and pray and have my thoughts say, I know my highest good is coming from this experience. If you're having areas of relationships that you want to change, again, you're going to look at your relationship and go, what areas am I grateful for now? And what feelings, what thoughts to develop the feelings that I want in this loving relationship that is present here and now, even though I don't see it with my 5 senses. And I know my highest good is coming. And so you want to do this with health also. So what will you do? You're going to be grateful for all the health you have. And then you're going to think the thoughts of the wholeness and healing that is ever occurring now, even though we don't have it right here and now with our 5 senses. Because we know that there is a source that is greater than us. And through the power of prayer, through the power of our thoughts, we can redesign a new life. We are using a source that is greater than you or I or any of us individually. We are using a source that is greater. It is the greatest source in the universe. And so we want to use it through our thoughts. This source will allow you to design what? A new way of living. What this source does is it unleashes, uncovers, and unfolds the divine that is within each and every one of you. Thank you, and amen.